Hello, everyone. Welcome to Life Out Loud. I'm Junie Moon, your host, and I'm so thrilled you're here. Oh, guys, today is a very special interview. It's different than anyone I've ever done, and I can't wait to get into it and tell you who this guest is. But first, I'm just going to give you a little peek about who I am and why I'm doing this. So I am a transformational coach, certified shadow worker, and my mission is to help people like you live fully expressed lives. And I do that by helping you lower the voice in your head, the inner critic voice, or anything that's getting in your way from being fully expressed in your life. And I work individually, and I do coaching with groups, and I even travel around the country doing workshops. So if you're interested in finding out more about the transformational work, you can go to innercritictamer.com, and I'd be happy to talk with you about the work. And because my mission really is to help you and to help every individual on this planet soar, I decided to create Life Out Loud, where I get to invite amazing, amazing people, leaders of our time, people that are inspirational, our guides, people that are walking their talk, and people I think that are just phenomenal. And hey, I get to hang with them. So Today is extremely different for me. Different and not different. This is someone who I believe is the complete description of what I just said. Completely inspirational, pioneer, full of heart, walks her talk more than anyone I've ever met. And so on top of the bio I'm about to read you, I have a personal relationship with this woman. Her name is Mary Lynn Blum, and I've known her, and you'll know as we talk throughout our time who she is to me and who this person is, and I'm so thrilled to be sharing her with you. So I'm just going to read you a little bit about logistically who she is, specifically what she's done with her life. So she first took her first yoga class at the age of 18, and yoga has remained her path ever since. She received an MAT in teaching English from Fairleigh Dickinson University, and has taught English and dramatics in high school. Did I miss something? An MA in psychology from Seton Hall University. I missed that. And she's taught English and dramatics at the high school level. Pursued a career in advertising, working first as a copywriter and eventually vice president of a small sales promotion agency. And she's worked as a therapist at Seton Hall University and Drew University. She became a certified Kripalu yoga teacher in 1995, and later a certified yoga rhythmics and Kripalu dance kinetics teacher, which is awesome stuff. She remains a continuing student of yoga and has had the pleasure and honor of benefiting from the wisdom of numerous teachers, healers, and traditions. For over 20 years, Mary Lynn has felt privileged to teach yoga, chakra-inspired movement classes, workshops, and private students. Her heartfelt mission is to joyfully offer the means by which her students can encounter and embrace the healing, wholeness, and holiness of their being, and to experience greater health, compassion, love, wisdom, and peace. And on August 5th, 2010, in a sacred traditional ceremony, Mary Lynn was given the name Padma by her students. So without further ado, I would like you to see this beautiful, amazing soul that you get to hear. Mary Lynn, welcome.
Thank you so much, June. Namaste. It's really an honor to be here. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Me too. Me too. So just a little background here, in addition to who this person is. This is a personal interview for me more than anything. This is about Mary Lynn, but I'm coming to it in a very different way than with anyone I've ever shared time with, because this is the person that I truly believe has given me the life I have today. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for her. The way she has been my guide, my therapist, my inspiration, so many pieces. And I started working with Mary Lynn about 18 years ago, because I know my son was about 2, and I was in such a challenging place in my life. And when I look at how I was back then and how I am now, and how this powerful, beautiful woman, and she, I told her I was going to probably cry, but with all the things I'm saying, it's like, hold on to your horses, Mary Lynn, because I'm going to be like, this woman has touched my soul. And what I've also seen is she's touched so many people's lives. And there was just no way I was going to let this opportunity go. I wanted to share her with you. And we're going to be talking about who she is and her journey. But I really wanted to let you know that this woman has had an unbelievable impact on my life. And I am just so grateful, Mary Lynn.
It's been great joy to see where you're at today, June.
Thank you. So I have you on the screen. It's now Mary Lynn time. So because we all know that life doesn't just move us quickly to this place in our life that we are now, that we just don't fast forward and go, my life is great and I'm balanced and I'm healthy and all those things. I mean, that would be nice, but we know that life is a journey. And so I thought maybe give us a glimpse of your life, Mary Lynn. You are a teacher to many, a guide to many. So how did you open up to this path of teaching others? What was your personal journey of discovery to allow yourself to be able to offer the space that you do with people?
I think that for me, like for a lot of people, this journey began because I was suffering. And I think that when I was young, growing up, I felt like if I got good grades and did all the right things and followed all the rules, that everything that I could want would come to me, that I would get comfortable in my own skin. And I just presumed that's the way it worked. And it came from a childhood that had a lot of complexity. But in the end, what I discovered is that that doesn't work, because in following all the rules and trying to be what I thought I had to be, I wasn't me. And when you're not you, you hurt. I don't care whether there's a smile on your face or not. And so that pain, I think, started me on this journey. I actually took my first yoga class when I was a freshman in college and did not expect to be doing yoga. That really woke me up to the power of yoga and has remained ever since the foundation of any healing I've done for myself. And then in the process of working on myself, I learned a lot of things, became interested in sharing it, went to graduate school for psychology. But really, I think it's just been this ongoing journey of evolution within myself that created the work and that created the next step of what it is I wanted to study and offer. And I think I've done it exactly the same way that anyone who's worked with me has done it.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Our life and all the experiences we've had have shaped us. And that's like the biggest aha and kind of the, oh my God, we've done all the things that are right. I followed all the rules. I did all the check marks and crossed my T's, and I'm still challenged. And yet each and everything that happened has given us the opportunity to open up to something new. So there's all the great teachers and inspirational people and books out there. And at the end of the day, our life is what propelled us forward. I'm curious, when it comes to your life, is there anything in particular or a few things that you can say, this was one of those big lessons. This was one of those things that really brought me to my knees or really had me say, okay, I need to look at this, and that it really opened you up in who you are now?
Well, there's been actually quite a number of those. I'm thinking that relationally, one of the things I think that opened me up tremendously was I met my husband when I was quite young, and I really fell in love. He's a wonderful man, has been a wonderful partner to me all these years, now almost 50 years together. But there was a period where we were struggling when we were younger, and we went and we got help. And at that time, I was still operating out of that false image of how to present myself to the world. And we worked with this wonderful man, and at one point he asked to speak with us individually. And when I was alone with him, he used to take notes on a yellow notepad, and he put the notepad down on his lap, and he said, Okay, well, here's the deal, Mary Lynn. We can continue working together and I'll take your money and you can come in here and you can present me with all this stuff about your life, or you can take the risk and really tell me what's going on with you. And I remember that was an amazing moment for me, because in that moment, I felt everything I had been waiting for was right there, and everything that terrified me was right there about being real. And time stopped for a moment, and I decided to sort of drop the facade and open myself up and be vulnerable enough to try to get some help. And I would have to say that nothing was ever the same from that moment on.
Yeah, thank you. It makes me think of those moments I've had with you. And I'm sure a lot of people have had those moments with you, whether it was in your yoga classes or the one-on-one work. And speaking of other people, we have a chat room. So anybody that's here live, feel free to post a question, let us know you're here, and we'll keep monitoring it. It's really remarkable how sometimes we can just have that moment where we could just drop in, someone asks a question, and I know I've had some like dramatic moments with you where you'll just say something and it's like, like, oh my God, like life changed in that moment. I remember, and I'm sure my mom is watching this. I have a great relationship with my mom now, thankfully. I'm so grateful. And I remember, gosh, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, you were talking about my mother's rule book and how her rule book of how to do life doesn't have to be my book. And I know that kind of, well, to me now it's like that was so little, but in that moment, I realized that I really, really had my own life, and that I really could start questioning what is true for me and what's not true for me. What are the choices I want to make in relationship to my heart, not because what my mother thinks, what society thinks. That moment changed everything for me, where suddenly it wasn't like the outside shaping me, but the inside wondering how I was going to enter into the world. So, that was definitely one of my big golden nuggets of many from you. And those are those things that really have us shift in such a deep way. So yeah,
that's right. That what you're identifying is huge for people, which is the realization that when you have a relationship with yourself and you're an inner authority, then you can live your life from the inside out instead of living your life from the outside in.
Yep.
And everything shifts in that moment. That transforms everything. And I think that to be open to those moments takes this wonderful combination of courage and vulnerability, which is a great, powerful coming together of seemingly disparate emotions that can come together and really give you those kinds of moments where you're really standing in the fire of it. You are totally courageous, but you are totally vulnerable. So powerful.
Absolutely. That's such an unbelievable paradox. Absolutely. And, I think about that paradox and just the paradox we also talk about in shadow work a lot, which is the safer we feel, the more we're able to take risks. And so there's kind of a parallel there as well. The more we know ourselves, the more comfortable we are inside our own skin and are able to honor and accept our truth, the more I believe we're able to be more vulnerable, able to step out in the world, because we know we're going to be okay. That doesn't mean the shit's not going to hit the fan, but that we know we'll be okay. What are we going to say?
And that's huge, because I think at the beginning of the work, people think that the journey is to find trustworthy people outside of us. Yeah. And so it's so much about, is this person safe or is this person not safe? And of course, that's where you have to start. But in the end, that safety gets transferred inside. So that what keeps you safe is not so much the people who are around you, but your ability to be connected to yourself, make the kind of choices that allow you to move toward or move away from people, and that your safety lies in your ability to run your life, not so much in what that person says or what they do or how they behave toward you. And these are shifts, these are seismic shifts.
Yes, yes.
And these shifts need to be felt. They're not shifts to be understood
Yeah.
intellectually. Because
Yep.
everybody, knows this stuff. This is just totally common in our culture to talk this talk. But anyone who has grown this feeling from inside themselves, like a seed that comes to fruition, knows that to feel this is very different than to know this intellectually.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the slippery slopes I see with people in spirituality is they understand so much. They've read the books, they've done the workshops, but it's a long way from thinking and living it. And it could happen in a heartbeat, but until it drops into the heart, until it drops, I believe, into the gut where it's visceral, that it's just like we're living from that place of deep knowing, that the brain and in the belly, that's the paradigm shift. That's the identity shift. And I also think that that's outside in. It's kind of the human journey. When we're little, we don't know. We're looking for help. We're looking for guidance. And in our 20s, we're trying to figure out who we are in relationship to the world. But at some point in our 30s and 40s, I believe we start going, hey, something's not working here. And what else might there be for me? And thankfully, we do have guides like you and other people that are saying, here are some tools. Here are some ways to be in the world.
Yeah, I think you're describing the second birth. My understanding of it is the second birth,
Yeah.
and that birth into this relationship with ourselves. But I think that what you're talking about here and what we're actually both talking about yoga has been so helpful for me, because the embodied component of yoga has been a great part of the healing journey for me, because to get out of the head and do what you just did so beautifully with your hands, to bring it down into the cells of your body, you begin to realize that this healing is an embodied healing. Mm-hmm. Because the reactions that we have to things are not just conditioned in terms of our intellectual selves, they're conditioned physiologically. So until we have a relationship with our bodies, we don't have a way to manage the physiology of tolerating uncomfortable feelings like fear or self-consciousness or inhibition or whatever. And that's something that I feel yoga has been so helpful with. Mm. And I think yoga is so helpful in trauma work and other kinds of work where the physiology associated with the conditioning and beliefs that moves us away from ourselves has to be managed, or even the ideas we have about what healing could look like remain ideas until they get brought into our ability to just hold ourselves in those difficult moments. And that takes time.
Yes. And that, again, that's one of the other things that you really helped me with, to get out of my head and to really feel. I mean, so many times, is it, I remember I don't know your exact words, but is it okay for me to just breathe? And can that be enough? Can I allow myself to just go in my body and feel and not have to jump out of it and not to define it? If I'm feeling fear, if I'm feeling, angry, whatever it is, to not have to, well, it's because of this and I have to look at this and I have to do this, but can I hold myself and be still and allow myself to just be present with what is so in my embodied self? To me, that, I could just, the list of all the things you've given me, but that, to me, that the bridge, and this is what I see it as, the bridge between the spiritual work and the physical work, the bridge between the mind and the body. It's like there's got to be that dance. Otherwise, I see it as a disconnect, and we're missing out on a lot. And I really believe that's where we suffer. If we live up here, we're missing the human experience. And I truly believe we need the human experience, the allowing of the human experience to open us up to the spiritual. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that, about the bridge between the spiritual walk and the allowing of the human experience. Because sometimes people really just want to get the spiritual bypass and disown feelings. It's not okay to be fearful. It's not okay to be sad. If you are, then you're not connected to source. And there's a lot of judgment going around that somebody's falling short if they're feeling human. So if you can maybe talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I think that as long as we're embodied, we're having the spiritual experience, in human form. If you are rushing to transcend the human form while you're embodied, it suggests that you're uncomfortable, that you're struggling. To avoid the human experience in an attempt to try to get something that's out there is usually not successful, because you still have to get up in the morning and you still have to interact with other people and you still have to get a job and go to work and raise your children and stand in line at the grocery store. And I think that a lot of people check out on the experience of being human, where we manifest our spirituality while we're still embodied, because it's too hard to be human. Now, I have complete compassion for that, but I think that there needs to be understanding about that when it shows up. Yoga is an understanding of the world as a unity consciousness. So I think it's very painful for people when they don't perceive themselves as whole. And whenever you're avoiding a part of yourself, you're trying to get rid of a piece of your wholeness. And the only thing that can result in is feeling unwhole. So I think that although I have a lot of compassion for people using spirituality as a way to avoid their humanity, I understand that, and I understand the seduction of that. It tends not to really work out well, and we see that in relationships. Because I believe in your wholeness, you have a relationship with yourself, you have a relationship with the world around you, which includes people and the experiences of objects and sensations that come in through the senses, and also your relationship with the divine. I think these are three important relationships that contribute to wholeness. And I think studying chakra theory and understanding that we are complex, that in our wholeness we have a body and we have emotions and we have thoughts, and that there's a lot that makes up who we are, including our spirituality, including a relationship with that which is transpersonal.
Yep.
But it's one thing to pursue the transpersonal from a relationship with that which is personal. It's another thing to pursue the transpersonal because the personal is just too painful and too hard. So I don't know if that's really clear. I think in the end, to feel holy, we have to feel whole.
Thank you. So at this point, let me get me back on. So at this point, I think you all know that we have quite a evolved woman. I hope that's okay if I say that. My perception of you is a very evolved woman who's
I don't know if it's mine, but
I'm going to say it. This woman in front of me is exceptional and beautiful and knows a lot. And with all of your tools and your life journey at this point in your life, you are about to embark on a new chapter, a pretty significantly big new chapter. And I really would love for you to share not only about what's happening inside of you with the new choices that you're making and living, stepping into the mystery of this next chapter, but also how's it been with the letting go of what's been your life for a long time, and the students and the people that have come to rely on you. And there's so much here, and I really want to go there because I know there's a lot of people, including myself, there's like, oh my God, you're leaving us, and there's feelings of loss and fear, and so I'd like to know what's going on inside of you, and how are you managing yourself as you step into this, and while things are showing up with the people around you.
Well, you know that this has been hard because I love my life and I love my work and I love all the people that have helped me and the people who have come to me for help. It's really a very loving enterprise for me. But this summer when I turned 65, it was the first birthday I ever arrived into where I really felt my mortality. And we've just been talking about feeling things rather than knowing things. It's not that I haven't known I'm getting older, But this birthday, I actually had a felt sense experience of the fact that in the trajectory of my life in this body, I was getting to that other side. And I realized that there was a lot of myself I had not yet had the space to encounter, precisely because my life was so full with wonderful things and with the regularity of my commitments and with the service I've loved to give. But that didn't leave a whole lot of time for other things. And I knew that I wanted to do some other things. I knew that it was time to live in a warmer climate because I was getting too old to be indoors for so many months of the year. And so I began a process of being with myself around this letting go. I spoke with a lot of people who I turned to for support so that I would ready myself for letting go, so that when I started to talk about my letting go, I would really be at peace inside myself. I think that a lot of human beings, certainly a lot of women, have set up their lives in such a way that they're there for other people, but sometimes they'll sacrifice what is good for themselves in service to others, or for fear of hurting or disappointing or losing the other. And after so many years of encouraging people to be themselves, I realized that's where I was, that in order to do what was best for me, I would be risking disappointing, hurting people, which of course is not what I want to do. And then I was in the belly of the beast that many people find themselves in, I think, which is, how can you be true to yourself and be completely loving and compassionate towards those who are going to react to that, without drowning in guilt, without drowning in shame, without feeling, that I knew I had to arrive into a place where I had a deep understanding and a deep feeling of what I was doing so that I could hold the space for the reactions that would move toward me, reactions I understand, reactions I have compassion for, and to be able to be present for that in a way that allowed me to be true to myself, and everyone else who was going through it with me could be true to themselves. So there was a lot of preparation for that. And I'm still in that. But how is it for me? It's been the most incredible practice of being human every day. And it's been very amazing, I think. I mean, I'm saying this to you in the vulnerability of being in it. I'm just completely touched by the risks we take in love and intimacy, knowing that in the end, we let go of everything. It's beautiful, it's hard, it's intimate. I feel really honored by being in it with the people I'm in it with.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And as we know, the more we love, the more we open ourselves up to this, to the letting go, to the grief. And what I also hear is you prepared. It wasn't just a compulsive move. It was something that's been brewing. And so not only were you like working your insides of what is it that you wanted for yourself, but you really allowed yourself the time to settle into that place where you can hold yourself and once again hold others. So in the name of setting boundaries within what's important to you, you also allowed this dance with other people that were going to be having some things up for them, and again, that's to me a great teacher, that it wasn't just this fly-by-night thing, that you know that there is a journey, even in the shift, there's a journey, and that this deep commitment to people. Sorry?
Things take time. You know, we live in a very fast culture, and we place demands on ourselves to get somewhere very quickly. But a lot of this takes time. And then it shows itself quickly. So, you know, when the flower pops through the earth, it looks like that just happened. But, you know, under the ground, from the seed, the roots have been moving up, and there's been a process. And then we just see the unfolding when the flower pops through the earth.
Yeah.
I think that something that's valuable is that things take time. Sometimes the body takes time. You have to feel things. Not everything happens really quickly. And that's not a fashionable thing to say right now in these technology quick times. To arrive in a place where you're really at peace with yourself takes time. You know, it's like getting an email and not responding right away, taking a little time to digest the email and deciding how you are with that, especially if it's not just one of those 1-second emails, because nowadays in texting and emails, people will put forth very emotional things that perhaps would be best transacted face to face. You know, to just get an email and then respond to an email. I have seen so much pain in relationships between people through texting and email.
Yep.
Because it's a quick medium, and some things just need a little more time, a little more breath, a little more presence, and I'm voting for that when it comes to the human heart.
Me too. And so there's that time, and then there's that digestion, and really, again, coming home to our heart and coming home to our truth. And then the other thing you were saying about the texting and the emailing, that it's something I've noticed within myself, how it feels a lot safer to write it down and to not connect and share with somebody, because I can have time to figure it out and to write it. And there's my concern that we're getting further and further away from deep connection and intimacy, because we're not entering into that space with people to really share our hearts. Like last night specifically, there was something that was moving through me, and I started to text it. I swear to you, I started to text it, and I just was like, all right, you know, after I had processed it and got clear about what was going on inside of me, I picked up the phone, and it was way more vulnerable for me, but I was able to be heard and met and seen so much more than I ever would have been if it was in writing. So I really think there's such value in really taking the time to allow ourselves to have that inner journey, to that germination before we pop. I love that imagery. That's great. And to take the risk to connect with each other, because guys, we're just getting so disconnected. We're just this world. Another topic.
Yeah, and yet at the same time, you know, to not throw the baby out with the bathwater, because technology is allowing us to do what you and I are doing right now. And I think that this is a way of being in the world that's mindful, where you appreciate all these tools. We have these amazing tools. I mean, there are beautiful, wonderful things that come from technology, but to remember always that you're the one that's running your life. So to be mindful and to have that kind of ownership, so you can make a choice like the choice you made last night. Sure, you could text, but if you stop for a minute and take a breath, you might have the realization that texting might not be the choice that best fits
right.
the humanity of what you were experiencing. And then you have a choice, which is a wonderful thing. But you're right, it's much riskier and much more intimate to be face to face. And but that's where the good stuff is too. And vulnerability, I just want to shout out the power of vulnerability. And I'm really in awe of the message that Brene Brown has been putting out in such a wonderful and public way, that if you want to be strong, if you want to be really groundedly strong, then you have to take on a relationship with your own vulnerability. You can't be strong if you're always avoiding vulnerability. So,
yep.
Just another important thing. So sometimes you want to pick up your phone and text, and sometimes you want to put down your phone and do one of those old-fashioned phone calls. And sometimes what you really want to do is just make the phone call that sets up the time to be together face to face. And these are choices. We have these choices if we're in there making those choices.
Yep. Yep, we need to be in there. Yes, absolutely. And Brene Brown's work, you turned me on to her. Well, you nudged me. I'd heard of her, and you nudged me to start listening to her. And yes, I look forward to having her on this show. Guys, if you know how to get in touch with her, let me know, because I would love to have a chat with her. Yeah, powerhouse, and just the message being so potent about if we really share our hearts, that, fully, how that really frees us up. And if we can, it's the shame that can keep us locked and away from connecting truly with each other and ourselves.
So, I want to speak to that too, because I think it's easy, just as you were pointing out some of the pitfalls of spirituality.
Yeah.
There are pitfalls in the notion of sharing our hearts, in that one can overshare, or one can not give oneself a chance to digest before it's shared.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to be able to share, but we also want to be able to hold. We want to let things settle before we share, because people who overshare can use their words as a way of defending against intimacy, the same way that people who undershare can use their silence as a defense against intimacy. So, even the language of just, open-heartedness itself can be misunderstood if there isn't the this and that of things that go into the wholeness of everything.
Totally agree, 100%. Not even going to say anything more about that, because you nailed it. I totally agree, 100%. Okay, so we still have a little bit more time. I know that a lot of people, they hear yoga, they think, okay, I'm going to go and sit on my mat and do some stretches. I don't get it. What's the spirituality around yoga, and how is it that it's healing? And, and so I know there's different branches of yoga and there's different parts to it. Maybe talk to people, our viewers, about what yoga is and how you use it to have the life that you have.
Well, the physical practice of yoga is extraordinarily important, and the physical practice of yoga can be done in any body, with any limitations or any sizes, if you understand that yoga is not about achieving something, but rather having an experience of coming into your body, moving into a shape, and staying connected with yourself about what one does on the inside to create that shape. What does one do to lift the chest? What does one do to engage the abdominal muscles? What does one do in relationship to one's body? And in that process, there is a huge amount of revelation about how you hold yourself and how you breathe, etc. But that's only one part of yoga. And the physical practice of yoga, which is certainly what's most popular in the United States, is only one component of yoga, which includes spiritual guidelines, the yamas and the niyamas, which are a way of understanding how one lives a spiritual life. There's pranayama, the breath practices that move the life force through the body, certainly meditation. So to talk about yoga is to talk about a very large practice, and the doorway in for many people is through the physical practice, and it certainly offers a lot just as a physical practice. But what separates yoga from other forms of exercise is the mindfulness, the breath, the being in the present moment, and beginning to really experience the miraculousness of being in a body, and observing your mind in meditation, or looking at things deeply. One of the mother of all of the yamas is ahimsa, and that's what people throw around as nonviolence. But to really look at the violence within us is a personal study. people joke about it like I can't step on an ant or something like that. But these guidelines ask of people to look deeply at what's going on inside and how we live our lives. And someone, for example, who would never say anything injurious to another person might discover that their inner dialogue is very, very violent and cruel in the relationship to themselves. So there is a way of looking at nonviolence or non-injury in a powerful way. And these practices are part of yoga, breath practices are part of yoga, meditation is part of yoga, and the physical practice is part of yoga. And for people who immerse themselves in yoga, the benefits are extraordinary. But on the other hand, even if somebody just dips their toe in the water, there are benefits there too. So, it's like start wherever you are and see if yoga calls to you. If you find that yoga is a really supportive practice, body, mind, and spirit, then that's it. You're with yoga for the rest of your life, as I am. And thank goodness for that.
Yes, thank goodness for that. That has been your calling, because I know how many people you've touched being in service to them. We only have a few more minutes. It happens so fast. There are going to be people that are going to want to know how to get in touch with you. I know your life is you're entering into the mystery of where you'll be. Well, not where you'll be, but what you're going to be doing and all these things. But maybe let people know how to find you, your contact information, and I'll write it in the chat box.
Perfect. So knowing that I'm not really clear on what's going to evolve for me, I can be emailed at Merylynn, MERILYNN, at peacefulyoga.com. And I'm happy to receive your emails. The other way of being in touch with me is by going to my website, peacefulyoga.com, and on the contact page, getting on my email list. And I don't send out a million emails. And the third way is to follow me on Facebook, either as Merylynn Blum or Peaceful Yoga with Merylynn Blum. And I will be letting people know what's happening through these ways.
We still have a few more minutes, and I'm not letting you go until the very last minute. I'm just curious, and I'm sure it's not like a minute answer, but what has been your biggest challenge in leadership position of holding all the people that have been in your yoga classes and in your private practices? What has been your biggest challenge in the role that you've chosen to be in all these years?
I think that my love of spirit reminds me constantly of what I cannot control. It reminds me that much that occurs is a mystery. It keeps me humble in terms of the kind of egotistical seductions that would lead me to believe that I'm more important than I am or more powerful than I am. It's not that I'm playing small, but I think that one of the biggest challenges for me is to consistently do everything I can and let go of what I cannot control. And one of those things is that I really can't control other people's inner experiences. So I think that returning over and over to that feeling of ordinariness is a constant practice for anyone who makes choices to be in service to others. To just keep coming back after having done your best in a day, letting go. And maybe that, for me, has been one of the biggest challenges. And perhaps this move that I'm making has been the biggest teaching for me in that. So what turned out to be the hardest thing for me has now become the most significant practice. A practice, obviously, I'm still in.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Merylynn. We are at time. Thank you so much for being here You
Let's-
are such a light, and I'm so grateful to have you in my life. Thank you. And
You're
I'm glad that I got to share her with you guys. And you can find her at peacefulyoga.com. And I have a whole bunch of other awesome people coming up on Life Out Loud. So stay tuned and join me for some of the future shows. And again, if you'd like to know more about shadow work or my transformational coaching, you can go to innercritictamer.com. And that's it for today, guys. Blessings to you all. And again, Mary Lynn, thank you so much for being here.
You're so welcome, June.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.